One of the most interesting class mechanics in Guild Wars 2 is the Ranger's Pet, because of the unique feel that you get from going around the world collecting a bunch of different animals to help you on your journey. It's why I think the Pokemon franchise is so popular. But while Guild Wars 2 lets you create different builds and combos depending on which pets you choose to fight with you in battle, the choices don't feel as meaningful because the pet only makes up a small fraction of your total damage, so they're mostly there for utility or just as a passive damage boost that you don't really think about. But what if I told you that each weapon that Rangers use can grant buffs to the pet, allowing interactive combos, and with the Greatsword, you can increase the damage of your next pet's attack by 50%, and combining that with other buffs such as Boon Sharing and Sikkim, you can create some crazy numbers all while role-playing as a Beastmaster.
Now that's a lot of damage!
So in this video, I'll be going over a fun open-world PvE build for the Core Ranger, which means it works while leveling up. And while using this build, it is possible to solo Heart of Thorns hero points and Path of Fire bounties. So you can use this as the starting point while you level up and work on getting your elite specializations. But it doesn't stop there, because you can also use it as a fun build that gives your pet a little bit more attention because you may have been ignoring it for a while now. If you do enjoy this content or find this video helpful at all, please like and subscribe to the video and become a channel member if you wish to support me further. With that being said, let's get into the build. Now, since this build is designed as a Core Ranger, I have some options for leveling up, but also a fully optimized build if you want to keep using it at max level. So I use full Dragon stats, which gives crit damage but low crit chance, because we'll be getting guaranteed crits from the traits, which means that this build can do a good amount of damage even if you don't have the best gear. And this is why I think this build is the best for leveling, because a lot of your damage comes from traits or the pet, which have the same stats regardless of your gear, so it scales up very fast even when you're low level. But if you're leveling, then you won't have access to Dragon stats, so instead prioritize gear with power and ferocity on it, then vitality and precision, so Valkyrie or Berserker gear works well too. I use the Fireworks runes for extra power and a bit of boon duration. We don't want to invest too much in boon duration because we can still do a good amount of damage ourselves, but getting Fireworks runes is the most efficient way to get a little bit of boon duration so we can buff our pets more. If you can't get Fireworks, try Pack runes or just any other power rune works. Your main weapon is a Greatsword, and I use the Sigil of Strength and Celerity. These are pretty expensive right now on the trading post, but you can just buy the major versions instead of the superior ones, which are like 20 times cheaper but only around 4/5 less powerful. And then you can decide to get superior sigils afterwards if you like the build. Then I go for an axe and a warhorn with the strength and rage sigils, because we'll be able to provide the boons we gain to our pet, making them hit harder, better, faster, and stronger. Then I use the Relic of the Ogre, which you don't really need, but it summons a rock dog to aid you in battle. This extra pet doesn't do that much damage or scale off your traits, but it adds more animals to the fight to really make you feel like a Beastmaster Ranger with all of nature coming to fight at your side. Now for the traits, go for Beast Mastery first if you're leveling, as this gives your pet more stats and makes it move faster. Take Resounding Timber, because this gives regeneration and swiftness to nearby allies when using commands, which we'll have at least 3 of these in our build. Two-handed Training allows us to do more damage and have lower cooldowns on our main weapon, the Greatsword, but it also gives Fury whenever we disable an enemy, which is important for later. Honed Axes gives you and your pet more critical damage, and some axe skill recharge. The next trait line you want is Marksmanship, which gives you and your pet Opening Strike, which increases your next attack's critical hit chance by 100%, and will give vulnerability and cripple to the target. We also want Hunter's Gaze for the might application, and Moment of Clarity, which increases stun duration and will increase our pet's next attack by 50% when interrupting an enemy with our disables. Then Remorseless, which applies Opening Strike on you and your pet when gaining Fury, and increases the damage of the Opening Strike attack by 25%. There's a lot of ways we can gain Fury on this build, so we can constantly apply this opening strike to increase our pet's attacks, while also applying vulnerability to our target, which is how you can get such big numbers on some of these slow but hard-hitting pet abilities. Finally, go for Nature Magic, which is all about sustain and boon application. Bountiful Hunter increases the damage you and your pet deal for each boon. Also, the important trait Fortifying Bond will cause every boon you apply to yourself to also apply to your pet, which means that AoE boons or skills that apply to both you and your pet at a baseline will now provide even more duration to the pet, since it's giving to both, then sharing to the pet again. This is what allows us to provide high amounts of quickness, a full stack of 25 might, and permanent fury to our pet to maximize the damage that they deal. Then I take Evasive Purity for some condition cleansing on dodge, since we don't have cleanse anywhere else, but if you think you won't need that, then you can go for a Spirited Arrival for a faster might application, but we won't be needing that. We get some free boon duration as well, and finally take Invigorating Bond, which heals and grants protection and vigor to nearby allies when using the pet's F2 ability. The extra survivability is nice, but it also gives 2 more unique boons to add to our damage modifiers gained per boon that we have. Now for the most important part, what pets will you use in a Beastmaster build? If you have access to all expansions, then you can get the Tiger from the Heart of Thorns expansion, which is the highest damage pet we can get on this build. And the F2 skill has a long but hard-hitting attack that we can combo with for that massive damage number. However, the Tiger is a bit squishy and can die if left out too long, so we want another pet with more HP and some good damage as well. So I take the Aether Hunter Shark pet, which you can get from the Secrets of the Obscure expansion. If you're leveling your ranger, then you won't have access to these pets, and will need to use what you can find. When you create a character, you'll have a few options for your starter pet, which depend on the race you've chosen. Every race besides Norn will have access to either the Drake or the Stalker pet. So those are generally the best to add to your collection, since the Stalker is a cat with fast attack speed, and the Drake is a bit slow but tanky and still hitting hard. Bears are generally slow and tanky, but they don't hit very hard, so they're good pets for tanking if you're a ranged ranger, but not great for this build idea. Pigs, dogs, and Moas don't have the best F2 abilities for dealing damage, so they're not great for this build idea either. Insects are more condition based, which isn't scaling with our build, and while birds are some of the fastest and hardest hitting pets, they're also the squishiest pets. So cats and birds are generally the best DPS pets, while drakes are good for a tankier but also pretty hard hitting pet. For skills, we take We Heal as 1 to share boons between us and our pet, Quickening Zephyr for quickness, and Sikkim for a damage modifier for your pet for the next 10 seconds. So we want to use this when targeting something, but then it will give the pet the Sikkim buff for the next 10 seconds. Then Storm Spirit, which disables enemies and pulses Fury 4 times, giving us the opening strike each time for a series of hard-hitting attacks. Always make sure to put this on the enemy to deal damage and disable, but also in range of you, because the pulsing Fury will provide you and your pet multiple remorseless buffs. And then Strength of the Pack gives you stability and other boons, which will allow you to go uninterrupted for a while, so you can just go wild. Now let's get into the skill priority. Greatsword is your main weapon, but it's a melee weapon, so you might not be able to use it in dangerous situations or when you're engaging on an enemy. So I always start from afar with the axe and warhorn. Start by summoning the birds with Hunter's Call. This will do a decent amount of damage and will put vulnerability on the target to increase the damage that they take. Then apply your boons with Call of the Wild, which gives a lot of fury to you and even more to your pet. So you can see 16 might right there. Then you want to use Quickening Zephyr, which gives you and your pet quickness. Then we use We Heal as 1 to share that quickness again and that might. And that gives our pet, as you can see, 25 might, a ton of quickness, all these other boons, and fury, so that we've basically got the max damage right at the start of the fight. If you want to save your heal skill to use as a heal, then you can delay this and stack up your might more slowly. The Axe 2 and 3 do some decent damage, but they're mostly used to deal damage from a safe distance. The axe auto attack gains might per hit, so this is a great way to keep up your pet's damage, even if you aren't fully investing into the fight. Then once you're ready to do big damage, swap to the greatsword. The main skill is Greatsword 2 Maul. This does a good amount of damage and will apply extra vulnerability and provides your pet with the attack of opportunity buff. So what this does is it makes your pet's next attack deal 50% more damage. The 3 is a leap, which can be used to dodge or for mobility, and the 4 is a block with a counterattack that can also knock enemies back. So there's some great survivability on this weapon too. Then the 5 skill, Hilt Bash, also does a good amount of damage while dazing or stunning the enemy depending on your positioning, and it recharges your Maul. Since Maul is already a low cooldown, you should only use the 5 skill right after the 2 skill for a 2-5-2 combo. Otherwise, wait the extra couple seconds for the Maul cooldown. The 2-5-2 combo gives your pet the attack of opportunity buff twice, disables the target, which gives you Fury and therefore Remorseless. Afterwards, you can use the Storm Spirit to get even more Fury and Remorseless. This is the perfect time to use your pet's F2 skill, as it generally does more damage than a normal attack. And if you're using the Tiger pet, their F2 can do a massive hit. So make sure before you use all of this that you cast Sikkim, because that's going to increase that damage even further. So a basic combo might look like this. Start with the Warhorn 4 to get you in combat. Make sure you're on the right pet. Then do the Warhorn 5, Quickening Zephyr, and Heal as 1 combo. And that gives you and your pet all of the boons that you need to start doing your damage as fast as possible. You can use your Axe 3 and your Axe 2 while approaching the enemy, and then you're going to swap to your Greatsword. Use Sikkim, then the 2-5-2 combo, and press your pet's F2 ability during this. And as you can see there, I did 26,000 damage with the pet's F2. And if you're using the Tiger pet like me, this can potentially hit up to 30k. And the Tiger also provides its own Fury, which makes it more reliably critting. Then cast your Storm Spirit, which will get more damage while you keep casting the Greatsword 2 whenever possible. This is the full run through of your skills that you can repeat over and over. But sometimes enemies die faster than your full combo, so you can split it up by using your axe on one enemy, then swap to Greatsword and do the 2-5-2 combo on them. Or in more dangerous situations, your pet can die, so you'll want to use the F3 command to make them return to your position, which will make it much harder for them to die when enemies are chasing the pet. Or you can swap the pet using the F4 right before they die. If your pet dies, then you have to swap pet anyway, and the cooldown to swap back becomes longer. So it's always better to swap before the pet dies. However, when you swap pets, they lose all of their boons and buffs. So you don't want to swap pets when they have all the buffs on them. Or essentially, you want to save your buffs if you think you'll need to swap pets soon. So save your Heal as 1 and Quickening Zephyr for after you swap pets. Then use them right after to immediately boost your pet's might stacks back up. Also save your pet's F2 skill for after swapping so you keep the protection buff on it. So that's how you play the Beastmaster Ranger. It's about as easy as it gets, and if you'd want to play this build in another game mode, you just have to change the sigils for some more condition cleansing, maybe get some more stun breaks in there, more defense, and it should work pretty decently for a free-to-play build. But once again, if you like this content, then please like and subscribe for more. Leave a comment down below if you do end up playing this build, and I will see you all next time.